XS Wireless Digital is the perfect wireless audio solution for content creators and filmmakers. Thanks to a 2.4 GHz transmission, XS Wireless Digital is a truly plug-and-play system that allows you to upgrade your in-camera audio with one-button operation. With a variety of configurations to choose from, this entry point into the world of wireless will improve your workflow and will expand the possibilities of how you capture audio for your video. For more information, visit sennheiser.com/xswd.
The new Super 35 sensor that Canon have introduced with the C300 Mark III is quite a big step up from other S35 sensors that they have created before. From the body and the flexibility that gives us in terms of the expansion packs and the interchangeable mount, to the sensor with its increased dynamic range for tackling scenes that possibly we couldn't have tackled or captured faithfully before, I can get more out of this camera. My money goes further. It's as simple as that from a business standpoint. From a creative point of view, it's unquestionably unlocking more creative avenues for us as filmmakers.
Hello everyone, welcome to ProAV Live. Welcome back and welcome to 2021, I guess. So this is our first bit of content in 2021. So Happy New Year everyone. Hope everyone had a great break over Christmas and New Year. We all certainly did here, ready and roaring for the new year. So if you haven't joined us for one of these before, we've been doing these for a couple of months now, and they are really nice little informal, just a Q&A session, a bit of a conversation backwards and forwards on pretty much anything you guys want. So just leave a question or a discussion topic or anything you want us to be talking about or anything like that in the chat on YouTube or on Facebook. I can see them all here, and we've already had some great questions coming in, so thank you very much for that. Before we get started on those, some just general company update things, if you like. We just saw then the Lark 150. We had a couple of launches literally just before Christmas, so the Lark 150 and the Shark Slider Nano. There we go. We have already had a video out on the Shark Slider Nano. Great little slider. Really, really recommend that slider. And then the Lark 150, I've got a video coming out for that one on Wednesday. So, spoiler seems a bit stupid for gear reviews, doesn't it? But it is a great little device. Really quite impressive considering it's Holyland's first audio product. It's not perfect. It's not going to be for everyone. It is that sort of prosumer middle ground product. It's certainly not high-end audio kit. But it is a really nifty and convenient little device. I think for a lot of people, that's going to be a fantastic buy. And along the same sort of lines are Aperture's new lights. Well, I suppose they're not really Aperture's new lights. It is the same company, but they're branding them as Amaran now. So they've taken what was already a product line and they've sort of split it off onto a separate brand. If you haven't seen these are well worth looking at. Stock is hopefully going to be arriving soon. So we haven't had one. I haven't seen one of these yet myself in person. I've been doing a lot of research on them and watching the people who have had reviews of them out yet already, because they do look very exciting, mainly because of the price. There's nothing new here. These isn't new things that Aperture haven't already been doing. These are basically stripped down affordable versions of their 120D Mark II and 300D Mark II. But what is new is the price, because they haven't just lowered it a little bit and made it slightly more affordable. They have completely slashed that price down. For like this 100D, which is the same as the 120D Mark II, in terms of output and design, it's obviously got a lot of compromises to get the price down. It's not the same product in any way, shape or form, but the core things are there. The brightness, the light quality, the modifier mounts, the Bowens mounts that you can put whatever attachments you want on the front, and then the app control as well is there, the Sidus Link control, which I'm really, really pleased to see that they've put on an affordable light like this. Really what you're sacrificing is the build quality and the battery power and options, things like that. But this one is £184 ex-VAT, which I just find unbelievably low priced. That is a fantastic deal. Just looking at, we've already actually got some questions on it. Queen Victoria Hospital wondering how loud the fan is on the 200X. Like I said, I haven't actually tried them myself. I will be measuring how loud the fans are when we do get them here. I think from what I've seen so far online, the 100 is not silent by any stretch of the imagination. None of these lights are silent, but perfectly quiet enough that it should never be a problem for most work. Whereas the 200 does have a slight fan noise, and I think it sounded slightly different to a fan noise. It's had a slightly more of a grumble to it, so that might get in the way a little bit if you're using it as a key light, so sort of quite close to your subject. We'll have to see. I'll probably do an interview set up and have it as a key light and see if we can hear it on any of the audio, whether that's a lav mic or a boom mic. Just see what's going on with that fan noise. But there has got to be compromises. That 200X, for example, that you just mentioned there, that's £313. The 200D, the daylight only one, is £267. That is so well priced considering Aperture 300D. So yeah, the 300D Mark II, fantastic light that 200 is based on, is £875 ex-VAT. So we're talking hugely lower prices, and they've obviously got to do some serious compromising to get that cost down that low. So I think that's to be expected. David saying there does seem to be some issues with the plastic bodies and light stand receivers of the Amaran series of lights. Do you have any thoughts regarding how robust or not these are for pro work? Yeah, exactly. This is my point. There has to be some significant compromises to get what is a £900 light down to £250. I mean, that has to have some severe compromises in build quality. Now, that does not mean that nobody should buy them because they're not as well built. In fact, I think lots of people will buy these. But you've just got to think about the sort of work you do. If it's going in and out of a bag 3 times a day, if you're doing multiple locations and you're on the run all the time, it's going to get a bit of a beating, because that's what pro gear happens to pro gear, especially lighting. Lighting isn't babied in the same way as cameras and lenses and everything are. Lighting gets picked in and out of trucks and chucked around a bit. And if that's the sort of work you do, go for the apertures, the Lightstorms, the 100D, the 300D, the 600D. Go for those. These Amaran ones were not designed for you. Although they are going to be much cheaper, they will break if you submit them to that sort of work, I imagine. Again, I haven't used them myself, I'm assuming here. But there's lots of work where they don't get beaten up a bit. If you're working in a sort of home studio, or you're doing corporate videos always in the same sort of place, or for example, in one thing I was talking about with a colleague earlier was these sort of home video setups that we've seen come in 2020 and in 2021 because of the COVID pandemic. We have lots and lots of customers approaching and saying, look, I know nothing about video. I know nothing about lighting. I just want a really powerful light to make me look good, and I don't know how to use it. And with these, you know, that 100D, just plug it into a normal consumer mains wall socket in your house. It's only about 200 quid. It's affordable for most, you know, gym instructors and tutors and music tutors, that sort of people. And then literally just blast it at the ceiling or a wall in your living room. And as long as you've got white walls or white ceilings, that's going to raise the light level of that room way up. You don't need to know anything about lighting. It's just a big, powerful source. Blast it on, and that's just going to sit there. You know, it's not going to get beaten up. It's just going to sit there. And for that, the lower build quality, not a problem in the slightest. And you're getting a huge amount of light for really not very much money at all. Because remember, this isn't just a lot of light. This is very high quality professional light with really good TLCI scores, really good skin tones, and that balance mount makes it is so flexible. And Andy is saying, are the Amaran lights a third of the quality of the aperture lights for a third of the price? And that is really what it comes down to. Yes, they are going to be less quality because they are cheaper, but where's that tipping point and balance point for you as a customer in this sort of work that you do? You know, is it worth going for that 2/3 higher price to get what probably isn't 2/3 higher build quality? Because you do see diminishing returns on all of these things. When we get them, we will put them through their paces and see where some of the build quality things are, which bits feel plasticky, which ones don't. But I don't think the build quality, I think if the build quality is going to be a problem for you, you shouldn't be buying these. You should be buying the Lightstorm ones and spending that little bit more so that you get a robust professional tool that you can treat as a professional tool, and you don't have to baby it. If you are happy with a light that isn't going to get knocked about too much, then these Amarans are going to be brilliant. The other main compromise is battery life, because they don't come with a battery power unit. They are working on an option, they're saying. There's no real details of this yet, but it sounds like a battery box which you can attach two V-locks to it, and it'll provide the 48 volts power that they need. We have already got an option though. So Swit do make an option. It's a bit high priced for these lights because it's designed for big lights like the sky panels, but this will do it. So with just 2 ordinary V-locks on either side, it doesn't need their fancy high power V-locks that it talks about a lot in the product page, because it needs those to power things like the Arri sky panels, you know, these big light panels, Gemini, you know, the big professional lights. For these aperture lights, just 2 ordinary V-locks on either side. You can take one 48 volt output, 3-pin auxiliary output of that, and you should be able to power these lights no problem from that. So I know it's a little bit high price compared to the prices of the Amarans. But if you are looking for a battery unit and you can't wait for the Aperture ones, one does exist already, which is good. Okay, went down a real rabbit hole. Okay, Andreas is saying the Nanlite is interesting too. I haven't looked at the Nanlite ones. To be honest, with the weight of the brand of Aperture behind these, makes me trust these a lot more than a lot of those other brands. Well, I've seen, including brands which I've dealt with a lot, I've seen their sort of versions of these, and they're just not quite as good as most of what we see from Aperture, even down at the low quality end. So I'm really excited about these Amaran lights. Okay, so let's go on to some of the other bits and bobs. We do have a clearance sale at the moment. We've got our January sale, which is on the website. Yep, there we go, that big red banner. It's mainly clearance items. Oh, not those. This one. There are some really interesting stuff in there, like the Roland V1 HD. There's a few sort of leftover deals where we've still got some of the deals available. There's a small HD 702, which is good. If you just want a little manual stabilizer, these iFootage Wildcats are brilliant. There's a bunch of other, most of it's sort of clearance stuff. There's a few jibs. That's a really good microphone, Audio-Technica one. You know, have a flick through there and see if there's anything there which you might be able to get yourself a bit of a bargain on. And then a few other offers like Bird Dog. This is actually a really good offer if you're looking at PTZ's Bird Dog for their 4K ones, so their P400 and P4K. They're giving you a free little Bird Dog Flex decoder as well, which is great. And we've got a couple of very good live streams coming up over the next couple of weeks. So this Thursday, I'm going to be talking to Brett Danton. He directed a commercial shot on the Canon C500 Mark II recently, but he did it all remotely from his house here in the UK, while the commercial on a set with a full production team was taking place in Australia. So what you can see there on the monitors is happening in live as he's directing in Australia. They had the camera there and all the crew and the lights and everything, so it's furniture commercial. And then he had an Atomos Neon here and one there so that he could talk about color and lighting with them and know that they were on the same screen. And sort of a bit of his experience of what it's like to direct a shoot like that remotely, because it is a remarkable feat of technology. And then on the Thursday after, so this is next week, talking to John Edwards from Naive Studios. He has been shooting a lot with the A7S Mark III. He does a lot of these sort of commercial work and sort of fashion, lifestyle type projects. We're going to be dissecting one of his projects, which he shot, which is for Hype Clothing. They did a little collaboration with Lego on a clothing brand, and he shot the promo, which is what that still is from there in the thumbnail. And I'm going to be talking that through with him. He used the A7S Mark III for it when it was brand new, so his experience is there. And he used all Zeiss glass on it as well. He's a big fan of Zeiss glass, so I want to talk that project through with him and see if pick some, because it's a very different style to a lot of the work we normally feature on this channel. It's much more sort of a bit more grimy and rough and ready, because that fits with the brand and the aesthetic. It's a really great little piece. Okay, let's crack on with some questions. We had one from Jason before this stream even started, which is pretty amazing. Sorry, just sip of water. So he says, I know Sony have just released the FX6, but what do you expect to see from them next, especially in camcorders, and when? Well, who knows? We're playing crystal ball stuff here. I haven't heard of anything. In terms of camcorders, by camcorders, do you mean fixed lens camcorders, or do you mean camcorders in the way of the FX6, FX9? I don't think we're going to see anything new in terms of the FX6 and the FX9 sort of camcorder range for a while now. I think the FX6 and the FX9 are going to be their lineup. I would love to see them come along with maybe a Super 35 lineup to go alongside the FX6, maybe a sort of a Super 35 version of the FX6 at an even lower price point. Well, I guess their sort of version of the Canon C70, for example. I would love to see that, because I think there is still a lot of people out there that really do enjoy using Super 35. And it helps get around some of the disadvantages of going for a full frame sensor and the extra tax that you can normally push that camera a little bit further. And we do see this with Canon as well. Take their C500 and their C300, for example. The C300 can be pushed further in terms of frame rates and all the rest of it, dynamic range, because it's got a smaller sensor. Well, smaller sensor, it's still Super 35 after all. If you're talking about fixed lens camcorders, I think they are really due for some new ones there. I would love to see some new ones from Sony. They've got the Z280, which is a brilliant camcorder, but it's a small sensor now. I would really love to see from Sony maybe even two 1-inch sensors camcorders. So their Z90 and their Z150, I think, are ripe for an update. I would love to see their new hybrid technology and some of the UI implementations that they've seen on their other cameras, like the Alpha lineup, the FX6, all the rest of it. I would love to see that in their camcorders, particularly the hybrid AF, to really take that to the next level, because that's when you need this amazing autofocus performance, is in that really fast-paced environment where you just need to record what's in front of you and do it well. And that's what those cameras are great at. I would love to see some new ones there from Sony. Okay, video editor bloke. What do you think were some of the best new products of 2020 and what were you looking forward to seeing this year, apart from life getting back to normal? Well, I think we're all very much looking forward to seeing that whenever that will come. It's very hard to say the best new products of 2020. I mean, 2020 was an incredible year for new products. I mean, the standouts are obviously the Sony a7S Mark III. I think that is a incredible camera. I'm a huge fan of the Canon C300 Mark III as well. I think that is a real workhorse camera. We're going to be using that a lot. And I do think that the R5 is the best stills camera I have ever used. And actually the R6 in that as well. If you're into stills, those products are an incredible move from Canon that will just dominate the market on the stills side of things, because they are very, very, very capable stills machines. In the video world, I mean, there's been so much. I'm just looking at the iFootage Shark Slider Nano over there, which I think I would put on that list, although it happened right at the very end of 2020. I think that is a product that we are going to use a lot ourselves, you know, with a small camera on it, like a mirrorless camera. That is going to be a B-roll machine for us. We're going to try not to overuse it too much and just have every B-roll shot as a slider. But that is going to make our lives much easier. And so that always gives it a place in terms of the best new products. There's also some really cool audio things. There's the new Tentacle e-sync track recorders, which are brilliant. The Lark 150, I think, is a very cool to see actual, real affordable dual channel options. I was very, very welcome. Oh, well, let's have a look at the YouTube channel, I guess. What did we actually cover in 2020 has sort of not helped my memory. The Ursa Mini Pro 12K, I mean, that's pretty remarkable, the fact that we can even be talking about a 12K camera. The affordable cinema lenses was a big move, both Laowa and the DZOs, seeing true affordable cinema zooms. I mean, they're still several £1,000s, of course, because they're cinema optics, but, you know, not too long ago, lenses like this, you had to spend 10 grand. Let's see, the Panasonic's cool, the S5, do like the S5. I do wish that they had put a new autofocus system into it. This Lupo smart panel, not the most exciting new product of 2020 by any stretch of the imagination, but we now use this on pretty much every single video we shoot. This has been our backlight of choice. It is a fantastic little backlight, and I think it's a product that people just forget about a lot. The TriCaster 2 Elite, that won't be interesting for a lot of you out there, but that's the TriCaster that we're using to stream with this. Now it's a beast of a machine. It really is. The Kinefinity Edge, that's not here yet. I wouldn't call that a 2020 product, but that I'm very much looking forward to in 2021. That's hopefully only a month or so away, which is good. The Red Komodo, of course, that's not the Red Komodo, that's other red stuff, but the Red Komodo is just being able to talk about an affordable red is fantastic news. Yeah, it's been a really, really exciting year. I mean, it was still this year when we were talking about the FX9 and the C500 Mark II. I mean, they came out in December 2019, so 2020 was the year when they started to ship in decent amount of numbers. So they're, in many ways, they're products of 2020 as well. So yeah, I can't really say a best new product, certainly not off the top of my head. But I mean, I think the mirrorless, are hard to deny the impacts of the new mirrorless camera. So the A7S Mark III and the R5. The R5 from a hybrid and a stills point of view is just incredible. And remember, although it does overheat, it can do things which no other video camera can do in a mirrorless form factor. And it can do 8K RAW. I mean, it is a remarkable product. And that A7S Mark III is just everything we were waiting for from an A7S Mark III. We've been waiting for that camera for such a long time, and it did not disappoint at all. We've sold so many of those A7Ss, and for good reason. They are brilliant, brilliant tools. Okay. The Amp Life with Chris is saying, Canon C200, will we ever get a better middle codec externally? Your thoughts on this, please? No, I don't think we will now, especially now Canon are releasing new cameras. Canon don't tend to release many new firmware updates. They already have for the C200, which is what added XFAVC. We will never see more codecs added to that camera. I'm almost certain of it now. If you need one, because the C200 is still a popular camera, I do recommend selling the C200 and going towards the C70 if you need that middle codec, and that's what's really important to you, because the C70 has XFAVC in 10-bit 42 in all-eye and in long op and high frame rates and all the rest of it. It's a brilliant little camera. If you need the RAW, that on the form factor, that's when you go for the C200. Sure, it's not perfect. It'd be great to have one camera that does it all, but I don't think we're ever going to see that in the C200, I'm afraid. Okay. Tom Sykes just says, hi, Carl. Hello, Tom. Miguel says, hi, Carl. Could you recommend a good video tripod under €500 for a fully rigged Pocket 6K? Greetings from Spain. Happily. And hello. Thank you for joining us from Spain. Blimey. Okay, so what I tend to do for this is let's just hop over to the website, go to the tripod categories, and then sort by, it comes up with recommended straight off, which is just the products that we like, which we stick at the top. But let's do it by low to high so that we can look at your exact price range. I'm going to work on £500 rather than euros, just because it's what we're displaying here in the website. So let's scroll down until we get to around there. Okay, what do we got? Right, the G06F 80 is a brilliant tripod. We use that all of the time in the showroom. I can see two of them from where I'm sat here right now. We use these all the time. I do prefer the more expensive options, which are down here somewhere. Yep, here. Which come with the solo legs, but they're going to be a bit higher on your budget. If you can push those, I really recommend that. They are brilliant. But if you can't, this one might just get into your price range. And that's the one with the sort of more traditional double style video legs and a mid spreader. Let's see, there's the Satchel Aces, the Libex, all this sort of stuff. You could go for the Ace M. I would rather go for the image, to be honest, rather than the basic Ace M from Satchler. Once you start getting even higher up, the Satchler products I think are absolutely fantastic, but down at the Ace level, I would rather go for the image personally. I really like these iFootage tripods, these ones with the K5 heads. If you're only using a small mirrorless camera body, what did you say? You said a fully rigged Pocket 4K, Pocket 6K even. If it's just a Pocket 6K by itself, you'd probably be absolutely fine with these. And if you need to travel with these, that would be great. Where are they? There they are. If you have fully rigged up, it depends entirely on what your rig is. It might work. But these are lightweight travel tripods. But they are brilliant. They do. These ones as well are even cheaper, which are the aluminium options. As a real affordable option, the image one is a brilliant choice. The EK650. We sell loads of these. It's just a real simple, good but cheap tripod. Doesn't have all the fluid controls of everything. For that, you really want to step up to the 06, the EG06 FA2. Fantastic tripod. Right. Okay, James is saying, any news on the Aperture MC 4-pack delivery? I think we're saying mid-Feb at the moment for those. They are popular, and they do sell out pretty quickly. I think new orders we're looking at around mid-February. Always best to actually pick up the phone and talk to our sales team, though. They have much more up-to-date information than I do on all of those things. Anything to do with shipping or pricing or any of the sales side of the business, I am very much out of the loop. Okay. Jeremy says, hello from Sydney, Australia, 3 a.m. tomorrow. I make the big step into buying SDI cables and converters. I'm a bit nervous because I'm spending quite a bit of money. Anything you'd say? I've done my research. Any advice would give with SDI? No, we need more information there, Jeremy, really. I mean, SDI is a fantastic thing. Be careful of how far you're running it and how good the cable is. How many ohms the cable is will tell you how good a quality that cabling is if you're chucking any sort of 4K signals or anything like that over them. If you're using 6G or 12G. If it's just normal sort of 3G SDI, it tends to be fairly straightforward, really. Okay. Simon Phillips says, hi Carl, looking for a zoom or two for my FS7. So I'm thinking either the Pictors or the Fujinon MKs, or even the Sony 18-110. But also thinking of upgrading to the FX9 soon. So should I stick to full frame glass? If you're thinking of upgrading from the FS7, yes. I would stick with full frame glass. But saying that, you can't really get what you're after in full frame glass. There isn't a full frame version of any of those lenses you talked about that is even in the same price point. You know, all the full frame versions of any lenses like that cost 5 times the amount. So if you're happy with stills glass, yep, having the full frame approach works very well. If you're looking between the Fujinon MKs or the Sony 18-110, I did a video real back in the day now. Let's see if I can find it for you on the channel. 18-110 should bring it up. Here we go. Which lens for your FS5 and FS7? Oh my god, this was 3 years ago. So in this video, I compared the how much our image quality has come along since we've redone our showroom, and I've got Dan here making the videos rather than having to do them myself. The new videos now look so much better than this. But yeah, we compared the Sony 18-110, the Canon 18-80, and the Fujinon MK, and we did some image quality tests between the two. We talk about the practical differences. If you haven't seen that video already, I would definitely recommend going to watch that one. Obviously, the Pictor wasn't out then at that time, but I think it is still a good product. Okay, so Liam is agreeing with me that the R5 is the best stills camera out there. That's because I know for a fact Liam has just bought himself one and is creating some beautiful wildlife photography with it. It is a fantastic camera for that. Ben is asking, how do you think the Amaran 200D will rate against the Godox VL150 for a budget key light? From the looks of it, I'm going to lean towards the Amaran. I don't really know. I haven't had much experience with the Godox and I haven't used the Amaran yet. I would personally trust the Aperture and Amaran brand more than the Godoxes. I think I've heard some bad things about build quality on the Godoxes as well. Although obviously with the Amarans that's a bit yet to be seen. Okay, Eugene, talking about the elephant in the room here. Could you give us, that are still in Europe, so he's in Sweden, a rundown on what the situation is buying gear from you post-Brexit regarding VAT and other possible taxes? So I certainly don't have all the information. I don't think anyone does, unfortunately. It is something that we are working on very, very hard behind the scenes to make sure that our customers are impacted as little as possible. From the looks of it, that is going to be the case. We are looking at how we can make it even less of an impact for you customers. So for our UK customers, just to clarify, there's no difference whatsoever. Prices shouldn't change. Nothing should matter. Nothing should change at all for any of our UK customers. For our customers who live in Europe, like you, Eugene, who live in Sweden, and are part of the EU, for the most part, our prices won't change, but there might be duties which you have to pay on customs when it enters your country from us, depending on a bunch of different factors. And that's what the item is, so what category it fits into in terms of your particular country's duty charges, and also its country of origin has an impact on it as well. And we do have a tool, our sales team, in order to quickly figure that out. So as always, my advice is just pick up the phone and talk to us, talk to the sales team. They're going to be able to help guide you through it. They have the tools at their disposal to be able to look up the items that you're thinking of buying, look up your country and your postcode and see what the specific duties are for you. And we are looking at ways to make it even more streamlined in the future, but it is early days yet, and I don't think it's as streamlined as anyone would like it to be. But it's the reality of the situation. Unfortunately, what I would say is that from what we've seen so far, the impact isn't anywhere near as negative as we were worried that it might be at times. And so we are a little bit relieved because our European customers are, of course, hugely important to us. We value you all very much. And so, yeah, hopefully it shouldn't impact you all too much, but it does depend on a bunch of different things. And so giving a clear one answer fits all is very difficult. But yeah, pick up the phone, talk to our sales team, and they will be able to tell you exactly what any duties would be on your exact situation. And that is exactly what Liam has just replied to you with, I've just seen. Okay, David. The Canon world is excited about the C70, the C300 Mark III and the C500 Mark II. What do you think the longevity and future map of the venerable C300 Mark II is now? And that is the camera that is recording me right now, actually, the C300 Mark II. I think the price, the price has dropped on the C300 Mark II already. And it is a fantastic camera. I've been making these videos on the C500 Mark II for a very long time. We now, although it is the camera filming me now, we normally leave this here for the live streaming setup, and we use the C500 Mark II or the C300 Mark III for our main content and the main piece of cameras now. And they are better image quality. The C300 Mark III does have better image quality than the C500 Mark II. It's also a much nicer body design. I do find the C300 Mark II design, it's quite large and bulky. But that being said, it is very well built, it is very reliable, and it has a fantastic image. It doesn't have much fancy tricks up its sleeve, like high frame rates or anything like that, but it is a very solid, dependable workhorse of a camera. And the autofocus is pretty much, it's not quite as good as the modern cameras, but it is nearly there. And so you're getting a lot of camera for the money now with the C300 Mark II. But yeah, I think if you can go for one of the newer cameras, I would do. I think they are all much better cameras than the C300 Mark II. But I do have a soft place in my heart for the C300 Mark II. I've been using it for 5 years now or so. Do Canon cameras still come with a worldwide guarantee? So I can use CPS here in Gothenburg, Sweden if I bought a C70 from you. I'm not sure, actually. That's exactly the sort of question that the sales team will be able to help you with. I don't know. I would have to pass over to the sales team for that, I'm afraid. Sorry. Okay. Since you just say hi from the Netherlands, hello. Jeremy, do you think Blackmagic will release an 8-input version of the A10 Mini ISO or an SDI version of the A10 Mini? Who knows what Blackmagic will do? I'd hope so. I mean, they sort of already have that with the Television Studio Pro. Yes, it's bigger, but when you're looking at SDI rather than HDMI, most customers using SDI need that little bit bigger, and for them, this is still a small device. Let me pull it up on the website so you can see what I'm talking about. Television, here we go. So ones like this, for example. There's also the HD one, which is a bit cheaper. So this is an SDI. So there we go. There's the ports on the back. There's a bunch of SDI inputs. I think it is 8 inputs. And all SDI, I think they're all 12G SDI as well on the 4K one, which is remarkable. So yeah, it's a very capable, in many ways this is the SDI and the 8 input version of the A10 Mini already. So whether or not they'll release anything smaller than this or different to this, I don't really know what they'll take out of this to get it down to that. Don't know, what do you think? Is there something that isn't on this one that you would like to see on an A10 Mini version of this? Let me know. Harish says, hi Carl, are you going to do home office video setup soon? Well, I mean, for those of you outside the UK is now in another lockdown. So we have full social distancing, which we've had for a year or so now. Well, at least it feels like it anyway. But we are now in another full lockdown. We are able to come in for work when you're not able to work from home, and filming is allowed to go ahead. So most of our customers are still filming, which is fantastic. So because of that, we are here in the office. I am filming this from the office rather than my home, as you can see. But we are very lucky really here with the office that if any of you have been here before, this entire sort of half of the upstairs of our building is a showroom space, which is what all the videos are filmed in. And there is me and my colleague Dan that work in this space, and that is it. So, you know, his live streaming desk over there, that is the only other person in the room with me, and he's probably a good 6 meters away from me. So we are very socially distanced here, and there is no one in the other half of the room at all. So office tour. If I could, I would, but I can't actually. Maybe we'll do that as a different video. I would need to tidy up first, or at least Dan would. I am working from home. I just come in to be on camera, which is why I say Dan would. He's now shaking his head at me. In terms of, are we going to move from home? Who knows? We really don't want to, simply because it has a massive impact on what we can create for you guys. And so if we need to, of course we will. Everyone needs to be safe, and we need to keep the rest of the staff here. We need to keep the company all operating. After all, safety is absolutely of the highest concern for the entire company. And we do feel that filming here is completely safe. Otherwise, we obviously would not be doing it. So hopefully we're able to carry on doing this for this lockdown. And who knows? I mean, really, there's not much difference being here. Very, very different from everyone than being at home. So hopefully we can. Because being from home, pretty much like we saw in the first lockdown, it rules out me being able to do many proper videos at all. I can do these streams, but they are much more sort of rough and ready, if you like, than they can be here with Dan actually operating and moderating the chat and answering some questions for me and all the rest of it, and doing the mixing, obviously. So yeah, hopefully we can carry on, and I won't have to resort to bringing all the equipment into my spare bedroom like I did before. Jeremy says the effect of ISO recordings is amazing. Yes, that is very, very true. Video editor bloke saying the HD Studio Pro used to use the small rack version, is technically quite inferior to the Mini now. Surprised they're not updating it to match the new specs. Yes, you're right that the box HD Studio Pro is almost like the generation before the A10 Mini, if you like. So he's saying that the ones I just showed have no mixed source types, right? So they have to all be the same input, right? They can't do mixed different resolutions and the rest of it, which is a big trick up the A10 Mini sleeve that not many people talk about, actually. not so good sound, etc. I think it's interesting. I would have thought they'd have better sound, but I haven't played with them too much in the sound aspects. Yeah, who knows? Hopefully they will, in that case, bring out... I mean, the ISO is a huge feature for anything that is portable, particularly for sort of... I used to do a lot of theatre work before working for ProAV, and that ISO feature is a fantastic thing for anything theatre-based, because you can walk away there with an edit. You can walk away from a live event with an edit already done, and you could have been streaming it live if you wanted to. I mean, I think that is just a fantastic feature. Okay, Digital Creations 2012 is saying Blackmagic product this year. Any thoughts? Like we've just been talking about some their live streaming stuff. I think though the video editor bloke and Jeremy do make a very, very good point there, that there are some very important features which would be nice to see brought up the range in their live streaming products, up from the A10 Mini. In terms of their cameras, we've just seen the Blackmagic Pro 12K. I'd like to see that more adopted. It'd be interesting to see if that gets used on any bigger productions at all. I would love to see a new sort of affordable product camera from them, a new pocket camera, something maybe with a new design. I think that would be fantastic, because I think both the 4K and the 6K are looking a little bit sort of outdated compared to the 12K now. I think the market would be very, very welcoming for a new affordable Blackmagic. What would you guys like to see in it? I mean, the main things I'd like to improve on the current pockets is the ergonomics, battery life, the slow-mo, having some decent slow-mo in them now. We've just seen this new crop of cameras come out with 4K 120p, which is almost unheard of. Mickey's saying I missed two questions regarding the FX6. Sorry, Mickey, I didn't. Dan, could you have a little flick back and see if you can spot what he's talking about there? Yeah, things that fix on the pockets. I mean, the image quality is great, but we're just seeing so many cameras now coming out with 4K 120p. I mean, their 12K is doing incredible things with high frame rates and high resolutions. And the cameras like the C70, the R5, the A7S Mark III, the FX6, they've all do 4K 120p. I think it would be great to see some of those. Oh, thank you so much, Dan. You've pulled them out. So Alex Giles said, I've pre-ordered an FX6 from you. Any update on shipments? Yes, we are going to have a large batch coming in very, very soon. So we have sold a lot. So it does depend where you are in the pre-order queue for the FX6 and how backdated that is. But we are expecting a large shipment very, very soon. So speak to the sales team, obviously, as always. But if you ordered relatively early on and you've been waiting a while, there is a good chance that you could be in that next shipment allocation. So, yeah, definitely time to get in touch with the sales team, because quite possibly. Do you think the FX6, he also says, will be given better white balance control, touch tracking autofocus, and maybe audio through a USB-C port via firmware? Oh, and Happy New Year. Good to see we're back. Happy New Year indeed. I would love nothing more than, in the camera world anyway, than a firmware update for the FX6 that brings some tweaks from the A7S's UI. So that is the touch tracking AF, like you say, the better white balance control, because the A7S has just proved time and time again that I can't remember which videos it was now, but somebody showed actually just how more accurate that A7S one is versus the FX9 and the FX6 as well, in terms of taking a white balance reading from a square which you can move around. It is just so much better. It is as simple as every camera should have that, in my opinion. Every camera should have, when you press that custom white balance button, it brings up a box, you can move that box around, focus it down to the grey card or the white card that's in your shot, and say, yes, please take a reading from only this area and ignore everything else in the scene. And that does seem to be what the A7S Mark III does, and it does do it very accurately. Whereas cameras like most of Canon's, the Sony FX6, the FX9, they do still just require you to fill the frame, or at least fill a good portion of it, with a white card, and that is not very easy to do. The technology's there. Why wouldn't they just put that on every single camera? And the audio through the USB-C port is very interesting. There's also other ways to get audio into it. You could do audio via their ME port, and if they had a new MI shoe adapter, which might be the more Sony way to do it if you like. But yeah, absolutely, you can have a USB sort of dongle, if you like, to a 3.5mm jack. And if they allow audio input through there, that would work. That would be brilliant because it would solve the problem of not having any audio inputs on a gimbal. I think there is a good chance we will see some, maybe not all, but some of these in a firmware update. I don't know any information before anyone gets too excited. That's not me saying something is coming. But I think from knowing Sony and knowing how much they do care about these things, and they very much have a business model which is about firmware updates. I mean, look at the FX9. The FX9 has several firmware updates. They don't always get it right, but they do release firmware updates trying to make that camera better. And I'm sure they will do the same thing with the FX6. I am very hopeful for that. And Queen Victoria Hospital is asking, would the iFootage Shark Slider Nano cope with the weight of the Sony NX80? Is it pretty quiet too? Absolutely, it would cope with the weight of the NX80. I would have no... I haven't tried it with an NX80 or a Z90, but I would have no concern about putting one on there. It would be absolutely fine. We've actually tried the Shark Slider Nano for perspective with their K5 head and the Canon C200 and a 70-200 f2.8 Canon lens on it. And it's pushing what it is capable of, but we got a smooth move and it was okay. So I think it can cope with a decent amount of weight, that slider. I think not having a pan tilt head on it, just having the pan axis built into the carriage, has done wonders for how much weight this slider can actually take. So yes, I would be very confident using it with an NX80. Okay, thank you, Mickey, for letting me know those questions. There are two very good questions. That's just me scrolling through and missing them as I'm scrolling through the chat. So thank you very much. What an FX6 tease. I don't know anything. It's not a tease. I'm just very hopeful that they will add those, because I think it would make it so much better. Jeremy is asking, do I think the Roland P20 HD is going to be a game changer? I'm going to be brutally honest with you and admit that I can't remember P20 HD. Can't remember what the P20 HD... Oh, it's a replay unit. Can't even see it on their website. Instant replayer. Okay. I mean, yes. There aren't many good, affordable instant replay boxes out there. And Roland are a good company to do it. Roland make good stuff. I really like Roland products. If anyone's looking for an alternative to Blackmagic, by the way, in terms of different versions that offer slightly different things, like more audio control, for example, than A10 Minis, Roland, or just simply they're able to get hold of them, because A10 Minis aren't the easiest to get hold of still. Roland do a good shout. Yeah, this looks really cool. I'll look into this in a bit more detail. Yeah, I mean, it could be, Jeremy, it could be a bit of a game changer, because there aren't many options at all for decent slow motion options nowadays. Okay, so I think that is a good time to wrap up. Thank you all so much for watching. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, we've got quite a lot of content coming up. If I just go back to our homepage, you can see from there. We have got a video coming out on Wednesday, which is our Lark 150 review. And then on Thursday, I've got a live stream talking to Brett Danton about shooting a commercial for one of Australia's biggest furniture companies, sort of Australia's version of IKEA in many ways in terms of the size of them, but they're a fantastic furniture company in Australia. And he shot a TV commercial for them remotely. So there was a set over in Australia with their C500 Mark II on a soundstage, and then he was here in his house in the UK directing and being director of photography completely remotely. So that is a good one to tune into to see what it's like working on projects like that in 2020. And then the Thursday after that, we've got a stream with John Edwards from Naive Studios about his work with the A7S Mark III and Zeiss lenses. He shoots fashion commercials. So the project we're going to be breaking down in particular is his work with Hype Clothing, and sort of Hype Clothing did this crossover project with Lego and made this clothing brand themed around Lego Ninja products. And it's a really sort of grimy, fashionable little commercial, which is very, very stylish indeed. And so we're going to break that down, see what he shot it on the A7S Mark III just after the camera came out, and a bit of his so we'll talk about the creative process, we'll talk about the equipment, what he thinks about the Zeiss lenses, what he thinks about the camera, all the rest of it. What lighting did he use, all that sort of stuff. We'll ask him all those questions. That's going to be the Thursday after this one, so next week. So please do come and join us for that. And of course, if you want to buy any of the products we've talked about, just head over to proav.co.uk, which is what I've been showing you all the products on, or just talk to our sales team. Thank you all so much for joining us. We've got some very exciting plans for 2021, and hopefully we see the world go back to normal a little bit more, but also hopefully we see just as many exciting releases as we saw in 2020. And maybe just seeing the exciting releases from 2020 actually get into people's hands. Just that would be enough to make 2021 a good year. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.
XS Wireless Digital is the perfect wireless audio solution for content creators and filmmakers. Thanks to a 2.4 GHz transmission, XS Wireless Digital is a truly plug-and-play system that allows you to upgrade your in-camera audio with one-button operation. With a variety of configurations to choose from, this entry point into the world of wireless will improve your workflow and will expand the possibilities of how you capture audio for your video. For more information, visit sennheiser.com/xswd.
The new Super 35 sensor that Canon have introduced with the C300 Mark III is quite a big step up from other S35 sensors that they have created before. From the body and the flexibility that gives us in terms of the expansion packs and the interchangeable mount, to the sensor with its increased dynamic range for tackling scenes that possibly we couldn't have tackled or captured faithfully before, I can get more out of this camera. My money goes further. It's as simple as that from a business standpoint. From a creative point of view, it's unquestionably unlocking more creative avenues for us as filmmakers.